real estate's a risk. I mean, anything you do in life is a risk. Driving your car, walking down the street nowadays, could be a risk. So, I mean, really, it's just kind of what your tolerance is for that. And then if you have a background with experience, then it just makes it easier to take that on.
On my $1,000,000 hustle. It's
The $1,000,000 Hustle Podcast, where we keep it real, I stated entrepreneurship wisdom. Learn to think like a millionaire and hustle like you're broke. Here's your host, Billy the Kid, aka Billionaire.
Think like a millionaire and hustle like you broke. This free game to change your life, you better so. Think like a millionaire and hustle like you broke.
Welcome to the $1,000,000 Hustle Podcast, baby. It is your boy Billy the Kid, aka BDK. And are you ready to learn and think like a millionaire and hustle like you're broke? Today's episode, guys, is there's a lot of fire in there. There's some amazing knowledge, advice. Like there's great show all around. And I'm not gonna tell you who it is just yet, but somebody that is killing the game. And yeah, just be ready to learn some amazing things today. And other than that, guys, I just wanted to give you guys a quick update, man. It's been a while. We have been grinding it out. We have been so right now, guys, this I think is the second to the last episode. As far as, don't get scared, I'm not going anywhere. But my setup, I'm gonna be building a new studio, podcast and music and all that. So I cannot wait. But yeah, it's like. It's crazy to think of it that way. This has been amazing. I've had amazing experiences in this studio, amazing episodes, amazing music, but it's time to go to that next level. So can't wait for that. We're pretty much almost done building our house. That's a big thing. Other than that, just lots of amazing things. I'm going to be speaking at a mastermind. I'm one of the speakers next week, based on whenever you're listening to this episode. So there's that. Just lots of amazing things, lots of blessings, and lots to be grateful for. My baby is growing. Our newborn, not so much newborn anymore. She's growing. Again, guys, I cannot express how much gratitude I feel, and it's all because putting him first, and after that, guys, just God, hustle, and I'm sorry, God, family, and hustle, guys. Those are the three things, and wouldn't have it any other way. But that is at least my update. But today's episode, guys, it is Andrea Trail, and actually, I'm very excited because she's part of the Get Uncomfortable family. And I'm actually wearing a shirt to represent the Get Uncomfortable Mastermind. And she has a lot of fire, guys, a lot of knowledge, wisdom, advice that you guys are going to hear today. And then stick around because I'm also going to ask her some questions about the mastermind and what she thinks and the stuff that she's learned and what she's seen in her business, her life, etc. And there's actually, talking about her life, there's a surprise that she gives us on the episode. So yeah, lots of great stuff. If you're interested in joining the Get Uncomfortable Mastermind, guys, please email me at info@billythekid.com. info@billythekid.com with your story, what you do, what business are you running, and from there, we're going to let you know if you would be a good fit for the group or not. As of right now, we are currently full, but that is how you get on the list if you are interested. But other than that, that is it. Go grab my book too. If you haven't, check out the audio version, The Power of Being Uncomfortable. Can't wait to bring up some more stuff I got going as far as like being the author that I am. So with that being said, guys, I think that is all I have. So here is Andrea Trail, baby. Let's get it. Vámonos. Welcome to the $1,000,000 Hustle Podcast, baby. I
I
am
am
super
super
excited
excited
today.
today.
This has
This has
been
been
a long time coming, guys. We've been talking about doing this for a while. I think the nice thing too is we've actually done some transactions now. So I think it's the perfect time because if we would have done it, So, anyways, I have none other than Andrea Trail today. How you doing, Andrea?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
I'm
I'm
excited
excited
to
to
have
have
these
these
conversations
conversations
with
with
you
you
because
because
you
you
have a
have a
lot
lot
of
of
wisdom,
wisdom.
and I don't think a lot of people realize because of all the stuff that you're doing, they don't realize your age. But before anything, let's start with your story. So, kind of, let's start from like when you were young to where you're at now. Like, why are you here?
Yeah. So I born and raised in Lincoln, Nebraska, still here. I'm kind of lame. But yeah, still here in Lincoln and still love it. Grew up going to private school all my life. So that was cool. I mean, looking back, I'm grateful for it and the experiences that came along with that. And I pretty much got into real estate when I was like 17. My dad's been doing real estate for a long time. And so I worked in the office in my early high school days and just kind of did like paperwork and stuff for him. And then I finally just started asking questions like, how do I kind of get into this with you and partner? So one day I came into the office to work and he was just like, hey, I just got a property. If you want to go walk through it and see, maybe we could partner on it. And so I was like, cool. So I went and walked through it, and me not knowing what to expect, the people basically just packed a bag and left everything there. And I, not having any expectation today, I would have been like, this is perfect. But at that time, it was just kind of like, this is gross. Like, how do people live like this? I don't want this house. But yeah, anyways, we got it. He basically said, if you do all the work, all the cleaning out and kind of running the project and everything, I'll pay for everything. So I was like, cool, that sounds like a pretty good deal. So we ended up getting it all fixed up, everything, and rented.
How
out.
old were you?
17 at that time.
Nice.
Yes. Yep. So, I mean, it took a long time to do that, and it was a learning curve, and asking him, okay, what's next? Or we do a lot of walkthroughs, and he'd be like, okay, now we need to line up this person and this person. So it was really nice having his guidance with that. But then, yeah, once we got it rented, I kind of got the bug and just was like, okay, I want to, keep doing this. And I was going into my senior year of high school, was also involved in all kinds of activities in high school with cheer and trap and all sorts of stuff. So that kept me busy. And then once I graduated that fall, I was planning on going to school, which I think the only reason I wanted to do that because all my friends were doing that. And ended up buying a flip at the same time. And my mom actually helped me buy that one. And so we ended up buying that, flipping it, and then just kind of kept it rolling from there. And I ended up only doing 2 semesters of college at FCC. So I was kind of balancing like, I could do this real estate thing full time, or do I want to go to school and at least have something under my belt? But I knew that real estate was going to be more rewarding in the end. So I kind of took that path and then just kept it going from there.
So, what would you say, Andrea? So there's a lot of questions I have based on your story there, but the first question that I have is school. You mentioned that you realized at that young age because it takes some people never realize it. Honestly, that school is not where you have to be, right? Like, and that I'm very passionate about it. I do get some some negative feedback sometimes of kind of where I stand. I truly believe like if you're gonna go to school, then make sure it's something that you love and get a license for whatever that is. But otherwise, don't just do it because society tells you. It sounds like you caught on to that really fast. Can you tell us what's your thoughts behind all that?
Yeah, I really what clicked in my head was all the people that were around me were about the same age as me, or I even had some older people that were coming back to school later in life. And I didn't do so great in high school with grades, but I did really good in college. And I just was noticing that I was taking it more serious than everybody else was. And I just, big on who I'm associating myself with and where I want to be in my life. So I just was like, this isn't for me. So, and I totally agree with like what you said too. Like if you are going to be a doctor, you're going to, go be a teacher, like obviously you have to go to school for those things, but if not, and there's other opportunities and doors that can be open for you in other aspects, then do that.
Yeah. And even just the experience factor, like I think people forget that. Like no matter what job it is or career we'll call it, like experience is what's gonna get you through things. And the more you do it, the less difficult it becomes. And that's your story with like you mentioned that, so your first property was with your dad, um and at 17 years old, like that's amazing. I mean, you couldn't even legally sign any documents at that time. Like that's awesome. If you take us back to that deal, like and so you said it was a rental, do you still have that today? And
And
what
what
were
were
the
the
numbers?
numbers?
Like
Like
what was
was
that
that?
at that time, and how did you like, because I'm assuming too at that age it's almost like you probably didn't care as much, because the older you get then the less risk we'll say. But what was that thought process with risk and all that at that time?
I think I kind of had a high schooler mentality about the whole thing, really, because it's the first one, and was just very naive. And I'm like, okay, dad's gonna pay for all this, so there's no risk involved for me. But I also just took it as like, okay, this is an opportunity. Obviously, I know where he's at today with his business. This can, really launch me into a whole future. So I think I'm not even completely sure on the numbers today on that one, but I think he bought it for like 100,000, and then we rented it out for 1,300, and now it's like a 1,550 or 1,600 for rent, and the same tenants have been in it for about 3 years now. But the first tenant we originally had in there trashed the place. And so, yeah, and that was really sad because, like, for me, because it's like I put all that hard work into it, and then that was my first experience of a bad tenant. So that stung, but it's all good, and then got a good family in there that's been taking care of it. So,
So
So
you
you
still
still
have
have
it?
it.
yes, still have it.
So I want to go there because since I've been watching your career, I've noticed that you have done a lot of flipping, but then you have rentals. So I that's a subject I wanted to touch with you. Um, what's your mentality behind that? Like, how are you navigating through these deals and deciding, okay, I'm gonna keep this or I'm gonna sell it? Like, what's behind that? And obviously, I know nowadays with the interest rates, it's probably easier to let them go. But what are some of the stuff that you do to make that decision? Yo, we'll be right back to this great episode of the $1,000,000 Hustle podcast. Before we continue, I want you to go grab a copy of my book, The Power of Being Uncomfortable. It is out on Amazon, it is out on Barnes & Noble, Walmart.com, Target.com, and everywhere else books are available. The great news, guys, is you could go to BillyTheKid.com and grab an autographed copy. That is right. I'm going to mail you an autographed copy right now. Audiobook is also available on Audible and everywhere else audiobooks are available. So go listen to it, go grab yourself an autographed copy, and I'll see you on the other side, baby. And now back to this great episode of the $1,000,000 Hustle podcast.
Yeah, I think mostly like purchase price, what we can buy them for, and then like if they don't need a whole lot of work, then we can just flip them real quick. But I think if we can get them at the right price and still put some work into them and be able to refinance them and make it work that way, then we make it a rental.
So what long term wise, where do you see yourself? And we'll say like in 5-10 years from now, like based on that, like do you see do you try to keep it more or do you try to flip it more?
I would love to get more rentals. I think, like you mentioned, with the interest rates and just not having a whole lot of opportunity for rentals right now, it just seems. So that's why we've just kind of shifted for the short term to just do rentals, and then to do flips. And then if something comes up, then, we make it work, whether it's a flip or rental that way. Yeah. But it's definitely slowed down over the last 4 years for sure.
Yeah, and I love that thinking process there, Andrea. Because I've always said it, and I'll stand by it. Like, if you want to get rich, do flips. If you want to get wealthy, keep them. And yeah, it's definitely gotten harder, but I think also as times change, you do have to adjust. And that's what I love is that what you just said is you're basically doing what the market's telling you to do. And I think that's the biggest thing that an investor can do. Earlier, you mentioned some fire quote that I don't know if you realized it, but you said risk can become opportunity. And I want to dig in a little more on that because as a 17-year-old and then even just moving on past that, like even where you're at right now, that's a big quote like that's a big sentence. Like I think a lot of people always get caught like they look at the negativity so much that they forget the opportunity. So what are some steps or some stuff that you do to when the risk, because at the end I don't want to make it sound like, hey, there's no risk. Like I'm the first one to tell you we just make things look easy around here. Like this is not easy, this is not a walk in the park. And there's a lot of people that just make it seem like you just buy the house and it automatically gets done and then you make money. Like it doesn't happen that way. There's a lot of risk, there's a lot of headaches and all that good stuff. But at the end also, let's not forget that opportunity that and I think you have to do it with a calculated risk, right? Like as long as you calculate everything, especially in real estate. So, can you touch a little bit more on that? Because that was a fire quote. Risk equals opportunity.
Not calculated. I still do it sometimes, which is to a fault. And my husband and my dad will scold me a little bit, but I like taking the risk. I think with being a realtor like the last 3 years, I've really gotten to know like you could give me a street address and I could tell you what it's worth. And so being able to, I think, have that and just being able to whip up a number and just be like, okay, I can make this number and this number work. And then, okay, what does it end up needing, and taking a risk that way. But as far as like long term, I think, yeah, real estate's a risk. Anything you do in life is a risk. Driving your car, walking down the street nowadays, could be a risk. So really, it's just kind of what your tolerance is for that. And then if you have a background with experience, then it just makes it easier to take that on. So,
And
And
I
I
love
love
that.
that.
It's
It's
so
so
true.
true.
Like actually not doing anything is a risk. And that's probably the biggest risk that you can take. So I love that. And you said, I'm just gonna go for it. Taking action is what I get out of that. Like what how do you navigate through that? Like what has helped you to kind of just jump onto that next thing, right? Like, baby, and I feel like as an entrepreneur, it is big to always go to that next thing. Like you have to get this deal that you're working with, this business, whatever it is that you're doing. But what's next? Like whatever you did yesterday doesn't really count as an entrepreneur. It's always that next win. It doesn't mean not to be grateful for the moves that you made, but if you stick with that, then you're just gonna be sitting there. So what are some of the stuff that you do to take action and to keep growing your portfolio to all the stuff that you're doing?
I think just staying on top with like what's current. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts, and so I just like hearing what other people are doing and trying those things out. And like over the last, I think, year or so, I've been doing a lot of foreclosures, buying those, and I didn't know what the heck to do. I kind of had some guidance like from my dad, but other than that, it was just I kind of showed up and I started watching and seeing what other people were doing, and then just kind of grew from there. So I taught myself the on how to have the experience. If that makes sense. So then once I learned how all of it worked, then I could go in confidently and start bidding or buying stuff, and then knew how that process worked. So, and I mean, it seems like a lot of people nowadays, I mean, we've got YouTube, we've got podcasts, so I really don't think that there's any reason why you can't learn to and then put it into action.
So true. I love that. And YouTube University, guys, like you have no excuse nowadays. Like, oh well, I don't have money to do this and that. It's like you have the library, it's free. There's apps that you could use like that are free there, and then the biggest excuse is like you have none because of YouTube, like YouTube University. Like that's uh you could YouTube anything nowadays. It's
It's great.
crazy. Like there's something for everything out there. The you, so the story here, Andrea, that I keep hearing, and I'm gonna say this because I've told you, and I want to say it publicly too. Like, uh, I truly hope that my daughters do what you did, like, and actually listen to your parents and took the advice because you did it at a very young age. And like I said, I've said it to you before, I've said it, and I'm gonna keep saying it because your dad has to be proud. Like you were listening, all the advice and stuff. Can you talk about that side of things? Because there's a lot of kids, and man, if I had to put a percentage, we'll say 80, 90% of the kids probably don't listen to the advice, and then it's almost like they find out the hard way. So what's been that side of things with you? And you have siblings too, and kind of how the just that that structure was at home and kind of what happened from after growing up.
Yeah. So very, very interesting. And it's so basically, it kind of started like, so my parents got divorced when I was like 10 or 11. And so I was going back and forth on the weekends with my dad. Um, and he was building a new construction business up in Omaha at that time. And I was, sitting in on the meetings with him and standing at, they were doing a lot of events every weekend. And so we would go to those and I'd be, kind of standing there listening to him and the bankers' conversations and just like learning that way. And so that was cool and kind of how we got brought up into it. But my other sisters didn't really have that opportunity. I have one sister who's kind of getting into it now. She's got a few rentals. But yeah, it's just kind of been me. And I think that's really what contributed to my me striving to want more and do kind of what my dad did. He started at a young age too. And so I think I just was like, okay, I have the guidance, I have all the tools that I need to do this. He's not a teacher by any means, so I had to go out and basically figure it out. And then if I had questions, I could come back to him and ask, but there was no guidebook on anything. So it was a lot of asking questions and listening and Googling and all of that. So I think it also takes a drive to go after that and want better or set a goal and try to achieve that. So that's kind of where that all started early when I was like 13 or 14, standing around at those meetings and stuff with him and going to the office and all that, and then working, seeing the books and writing checks and all of that, and seeing kind of the backside of the business, not just the glamour that everybody else saw. So that's kind of where it all started. And then I think it just took the drive in me to want more for myself. And I always knew that people would ask me what I wanted to do. And I would say, I want to take over, the businesses someday. And whether or not, I don't care, what people thought about that, but it was always just kind of in the back of my mind. And yeah, I knew that I never wanted to sit in a desk. That's just not for me, still isn't for me. So yeah, that's just kind of where it came and grew from there.
And the nice thing is, it's not like your dad pushed you and he was like, "Hey, you have to do this." Like, so that's what I love about it is that it was your choice, and obviously choice of all your siblings, and everybody made their own choices. And I think that's powerful because any parents out there listening, like I said, a fellow parent here, I you can only teach your kids. Unfortunately, we cannot make them do things. And unfortunately, there's times where kids have to learn the hard way. And so I think that's amazing that he did that. I do want to move on a little bit to you're a realtor, and I have a lot of questions about that. Why did you get your license? Let's start with that.
So I basically got it just kind of for fun and just to have another thing in my toolbox. And then it kind of took off and I was just kind of flying with it. But yeah, and then I just kind of figured out that I think I originally wanted to go the traditional realtor route with working with home buyers and sellers and all of that stuff. And I still do that, here and there today. But I found myself, okay, I'm an investor. I have that knowledge. Why don't I go and seek other investors to help them buy and sell real estate? So then I started kind of getting into that path, and then my dad was flipping some houses at that time, and so I would sell those and kind of learn on those, and that really helped me grow throughout that time as I was first starting to get like my name out there more and everything.
And
And out of all the
out of all the great things that you're doing, what's your favorite? Like, because you do flipping, you keep some rentals, and then obviously the realtor stuff. Like, what would you say is your favorite? I know somehow, some way they all kind of circle around each other. They work together, but what's your favorite? And then where do you see yourself again 5, 10 years from now with the at least those three? Because you're gonna do amazing things that are yet to come. But even just out of those three things, like what's your favorite, and what do you see yourself doing more?
I think definitely rentals.
Yeah.
That's where I want to be. Just because I mean they are like more work. No, I guess not more work, but when you have move outs or you need to go fix something, like there's always that. But when you don't have those calls, I mean you have a check coming in and you pay your taxes and pay your mortgages on it and everything. And so otherwise it's just pretty passive. And so you can kind of sit back and not have to do anything really. Or because we self-manage everything. And so, but I mean, even if we handed it off to a management company, I mean, it would be even more passive at that time. So I think that would definitely be the plan going forward, is to get more. And like you said, I mean, then probably the flips, just because those are kind of fun to do. You don't always get to dress up your rentals and stuff like you do the flips and have fun with them that way. But then there's also more risk involved with flips, and it's more of an action or an active investment rather than a passive. So yeah, definitely the rentals for me.
I love that answer, and I agree with you. There's a lot of stuff I agree with you. That's awesome. And so with management, you said you self manage. Can we dig a little bit into that? What are some we'll call them tips, pieces of advice that you would give somebody? Because yeah, you see some crazy stuff. I mean, I've had people that will be like, they'll tell us, "Hey, we moved out," and then we get there and they took their underwear, and that's it. And then here we are with furniture and everything. But what are some pieces of advice that you would give someone that's looking into getting started, or maybe they already have a few rentals already?
I think the biggest thing is put it in your lease and stick to what your lease says. And even if you think it's something silly, put it in there. We've had a lot of tenants, even make false claims about certain stuff. Like like for one example is they thought they had assigned parking, and we're like, we never gave you assigned parking. And then they're like, oh yeah, sorry. But I mean, it really shows you another side of our society, I think. Um, which is, I mean, good and bad. Obviously, that we have good tenants and bad tenants, but at the same time, it's just that would probably be my biggest advice is be stern with your tenants and make rules and make them follow it and sign it, because otherwise you're just gonna get walked all over.
So
so true.
true. You definitely see another side of society that we've had our conversations where there's no accountability. Like, and I know for a fact that they know what they know, and they know what they're doing. They know what they're saying. It's never their fault. Like you see, no accountability whatsoever. So I like that because it's definitely like you said, you see this other side of society that it's unfortunate too, because it, how you do one thing is how you do anything, and that's just sad if that's the way that you're doing things, right? So I think it's a learning experience for all of us. And I feel like there's, talk about getting uncomfortable. There's always something going on with with tenants and stuff. What's like the funniest story that comes to your head about just like tenants and renting out a place?
I don't have, I guess, a super funny story.
Well,
Well,
they're
they're
not
not
funny
funny
until
until
later.
later.
yeah, yeah,
Not as they're happening.
yeah. Really have one that's I mean, we walked in on some crazy stuff, and I mean, even like, so Brendan, my husband, is the maintenance guy, and so he's kind of our little spy on all of our tenants when he goes in to do work orders.
Mhm.
So I mean, some of that stuff is just like, oh, that's kind of crazy scene. Or I guess one thing that comes to mind is we bought a house downtown one time, and it had a huge, you remember like at the subways when they used to have those huge sandwiches on display? Well, they
Mhm.
had one of those hung up on the wall. And so now we're like, it's just the weirdest
That's
thing.
funny.
So now, like, we'll be like, oh yeah, like the sandwich house, like when we refer back to that or whatever. So I guess that's kind of the funniest thing, but otherwise it's more of just stupid stuff that tenants do.
Seriously.
Seriously.
You mentioned earlier, Andrea, you do a lot of podcasting and books and stuff. What is one book that has changed your life? Because it's that deep, guys. Like these books, that's why I'm a book geek. Like I'm always listening. I'm always reading. Which is funny because I used to not like it back in school, but it was the subjects that they would make us read wasn't the ones that we wanted to read on. So what is one book that you could think of that has changed your life completely that you still might read it to this day?
I think I don't know if he has a book or not, but it's Ed Milet. It's just his quote that is just like the power of one more. And I think that for some reason that sits really well with me. And just putting in one more rep, or yep, there it is.
Here
Here
it
it
goes,
goes,
guys.
guys.
Yep. So that was a good one, and I really like his podcast too. Just I mean, that could be in anything. That could be working out, be eating healthy, that could be, buying another house, like just taking it that next step forward, like, okay, you hit your goal, but then do it again. Do one more.
I
I
love
love
that.
that.
So
So
true.
true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
his
his
book is amazing, and you have to listen to him live. Like he has that like power to almost make you cry when when you're sitting there. You have grown men and women just crying while you're listening to him. Um, the Again, like your story's amazing. Like I can't wait to see what you do. With that being said, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
I would hope to have probably 50 rentals by then. Yeah, that's kind of the goal. And kind of we're at the point in our lives where we're starting our family, and so we are just not really wanting to work a whole lot. And that's kind of where we want to be, just having the rentals and doing what we love, and we might, keep flipping and stuff. So we both, my husband and I, can't really sit still, so we like staying active and stuff as well. So that's kind of where we want to be.
And
and
your husband, shout out to him. Like he's an amazing dude. How do you guys work that out with being in the business, and what are maybe some ground rules you guys have set, or um just to make that teamwork work, right? Like, because it takes a lot. Like obviously from like, my experience, like me and my wife do the same, and it's a lot. It's not for the weak. There's a lot of people that get divorced and all kinds of stuff. But what are some tips of advice and some stuff that you guys do to, is there some ground rules, etc.?
Still a work in progress. But definitely he has his roles and I have my roles. Um, like he's really good at the construction side of things, making lists and then lining everybody up. I don't see everything like he would. So I'm more on the transaction side, buying it, designing the project or whatever that needs, and then I either sell it or get it rented at the end. So that's kind of where I thrive, is in like the paperwork and the marketing and things like that. Whereas he is more to the grindstone, boots on the ground, working on it, and has an eye for more of the detail stuff rather than me. Like I don't go around and check all the doorknobs to make sure they're not wiggly or loose and things like that. So he just sees more of that, and that's his strong suit. And so we've crossed over a couple of times, but I mean it's all a part of it. So we just make it work.
I love that, and so true. It's a work in progress. Like there's always things that come up that you weren't expecting. So I love that. Um, and I do want to ask you, because you have a lot of stuff going on, a lot of amazing things. What are some hobbies or something that you love doing for fun when you're not flipping houses, when you're not listing houses and renting some of these places?
Just being outside, and I love flowers and landscaping. And we finally, this year, we finally ran out of room in our landscaping area. So now I'm looking at planting more trees and all of that stuff. So kind of came into that like these last few years. We, for like our wedding and stuff, we got a lot of plants, which is, I mean, kind of weird, but it all worked out. And so I kind of learned to take care of them and all of that. And so that's kind of what we're getting into. And this year we are hoping to do a garden. So that'll be something new that we don't know any. I mean, he knows, his mom always had a garden growing up and still does. And so we are kind of taking her advice and learning from there to hope nothing extensive, probably just some tomatoes and little stuff. But yeah, that's kind of what I enjoy. And then he rides dirt bikes in Iowa and races them and hare scrambles and stuff. And so that's kind of what he's gotten into. I mean, he's always rode, but the racing and competitively is about the last year or so. So yeah, he enjoys that, and we go to those. There's usually one about every month, one or two every month. So we do that.
That
But
sounds
always
fun.
outside.
Yeah. And I'm actually the same way. Like I'm barely getting into gardening and all that. I think it's peaceful, and then you, not to mention, I truly believe too. Like it's your energies and all that. Like have you know how like you've. I don't know if you've heard of this before, but like there's people that will talk to their plants and like what do you think is the power behind that? What, because I also see that with pets. Like it's I kids, like it's a reflection of the people, right? Like the parents and um because I've noticed it too when I show like my grass love and all that, like it gets bright and green, and when I don't, you could tell. Like right now, spring's just starting. But what do you think is behind that?
For me personally, I'm not really sure. I think I'm not a very patient person, and Brendan can attest to that. I hate surprises and I hate waiting to do something. And so I don't, maybe that's just God or the universe telling me that this is my time to slow down because everything is always moving so fast. And that's just kind of my way to, just the thing that I found to nurture, I guess. But yeah, I'm the same way. Like my kids are, or jeez, my dogs are my kids.
Yeah.
Yes. So, oh yeah, and then my plants.
And you mentioned that your family is growing. Do you mind if I ask you that, or we can move on?
Yes. So we're expecting our first little boy in August. So that's very exciting. We plan to pretty much we're both self-employed, my husband and I, so we are planning on just having him with us at all times, and that's going to be a whole experience and life changing in itself, but we're super excited.
We'll be right
Before
back.
we continue,
Go subscribe to Billy the Kid YouTube.
that is Billy, DHAKID.
Also, go follow Billy the Kid Music on Spotify
Pandora, Apple Music.
and everywhere else
Music is available.
And now, back to this great episode. Let's go.
Hopping out the two, though, we're number 2, foe. Feel like Kobe, though I'm winning, need to do more. My mama sorry, college wasn't for me. Street smart, no degree, just like Kobe. Self-made boss with a suit like a mogul. I'm the new era, you see it on my logo.
Wanted to ask you a couple questions since you are part of the family, the Get Uncomfortable family, the Get Uncomfortable group. We cannot leave this podcast without getting your feedback on it, because you're definitely a big part of that group. There's times where you'll just shoot a text that gets everybody wild up, like, "Oh man, like I ain't doing jack today." Like, but the first question that I have for you is, what do you think of the mastermind overall?
I really enjoyed it. I think I'm going on a year in May, I believe, which is, I think, a testimonial in itself right there too. Just the accountability and being surrounded by others who want to level up their life. I'm at the point in my life where I'm tired of hanging around losers and stuff and people that are just going with the flow and dealing with whatever life gives them. And I don't want that. I know that I have control over my life, and so I'm going to surround myself by people who want the same and want better for their lives. And that's what that group is.
Love it. And what has changed for you since being in the group?
I think I've definitely grown mentally, and my business has definitely grown just based on like putting more things into action and like, going back to the accountability part of it. If you have others that are constantly pushing you, or you see that they're pushing and you're not pushing, then it's like, oh, I need to, get my butt in gear and go and do it and get the work done, because otherwise I'm going to be in the same spot I was last year, at that time. So
Big. And you mentioned it already. Can you dig a little bit more? How was your business before and how was it after being in the mastermind?
I think I went more with the flow before joining, and then just having the acceleration and others pushing me to do better is what made me level up and put myself in certain rooms that I normally wouldn't be confident to go into, and just kind of had to say screw that and just do it and take the action.
Love it. And what is like a key takeaway that comes to your head right away?
Just like overall, or
Mhm.
yeah. Just the accountability. I keep going back to that because it's so true. It's like every morning we text each other, and if we're not texting on that, then someone's checking in on us. And we meet once a week, and just those meetings are always powerful. And we always, every single one of us is killing it and doing something great in our business. And I'm sure we could do that without the group. A lot of people do that without having other people pushing them alongside, but when you do have that camaraderie, it really elevates you and the whole group when you're working as one towards a goal.
I love that. And what are some things that you have learned?
I think I've definitely gotten wiser from all of you guys. Just really just having like learning how to work smarter, I feel like. Because there's like, certain things that like don't go out on appointments just if somebody calls, and interviewing your clients before you go out and do that, and just kind of working smarter and don't waste your time on people. And so that's kind of really the biggest thing I think that I've learned over the time, is just how to work smarter in my business and not waste time on people who aren't gonna get me to where I want to be.
Love that. So true, because I can say the same thing myself. And then out of 1 to 5 star rate, what would you rate it? And then would you recommend it?
Definitely a 5, and for sure. anybody that, like I said, I've been in it a year and still continuing, and I love it. It's great accountability, and everybody is just always pushing for each other, and we can just be very negative with ourselves and stuff, and bring a group, bring a question to the group, and everybody kind of work on it together or have certain advice. We've all come from different backgrounds and stuff, so that's a huge part of it, and just having that network basically to just go throw ideas off of.
So true, and there that's some amazing answers, Andrea. Like it, because honestly, entrepreneurship is a lonely thing when you don't have, you know, the backbone of people around you. That the nice thing is that it's so relatable every time we're in there, you know, somebody, and it could be guys, we have people in there that have cleaning businesses, you know, that have nothing to do with us, for example, that the stuff that we do, but it's so relatable because we all go through the BS and all that, and then it's so nice. Like we always leave every Thursday night. I really, it's hard for me to go to bed. Actually, tonight is the night, so I already know. You know what's funny, Andrew, about that? I've kind of started using that to my advantage. Where, oh, you know what? Well, I'm fired up. Let me work on my presentation since I'm going to be speaking in KC, for example, or let me type up some stuff. Like I'm just like I'm wired up after that meeting, and it carries on to the week. I think honestly, and this is by all means not just my group, but like find somebody, find something, guys, because it is true. Like things take off. Like me being the coach in there, like I've grown, you know, the past few years since I started this thing. Like it's amazing. And so yeah, all the stuff that you said, I totally agree. And I can definitely see your growth and everything that you're doing, Andrea. Like I just wanted to tell you, like I'm very proud and I see it. The confidence is through the roof. Like I think the whole group sees that. You know, they've told you. So I just wanted to throw that in there. But unfortunately, we have to get out of here. So I'm gonna ask you the same questions that I ask every guest at the end. And obviously, the power of being uncomfortable, the get uncomfortable mastermind. What's one way that you got uncomfortable that paid off in your story?
Just going back to that, taking action and learning how to be a risk taker, really. Because if I wouldn't have done that, then I would have kept being in school and wasted 2 years of my life instead of, when looking back on it, those 2 years is when I bought a lot of the rentals that I have today that I've appreciated. So, and gained me the experience along the way too. So that's something money can't buy or touch. So if I wouldn't have gotten uncomfortable and done those things, then I would probably be out of a job.
Yeah, so true. And what are so the $1 million hustle? As we know, it's basically some habits of people like you that are doing amazing things. If you had to come up with just, hey, this is 3 steps, you do these 3 things, you will not fail. What are those 3 steps that you would tell somebody?
I think confidence is a huge thing. So that's one. And the other thing is surrounding yourself with people that are like minded like you. And then also just, or that want to grow their business or even just be a better person, just live a better life type thing. And then the other is just don't be afraid and just kind of do it. Not care what other people think, and just take the action and get it done, because otherwise you're going to be in the same place if you don't.
So true. And if you had to look back at your younger self, what is a piece of advice that you would give yourself right now?
That's a good one. I feel like I definitely was more confident back in the day, so I feel like my future self needs more of that confidence. So kind of reverse role on that. But yeah, kind of going back to like taking more risk and not caring what people think about me, because I think that was a huge thing. And in high school, that's kind of everybody's thought probably, but yeah.
I love that. And where can people find you?
I am on Facebook, Instagram, just got on Threads, so learning that. TikTok, I post a little bit, but yeah, mostly just those three places. Otherwise, you can call or text me at 402-405-5931. Or if you see my signs around town, you can call me that way too.
There you go.
Yep.
Well, keep doing your thing, Andrea. Again, this has been amazing. I can't wait to listen to it myself. We were just talking off air here. Like there were some fire quotes that you came up with. So I'm looking forward to re-listening to those and taking some more notes. And is there anything else that you need to get out before we get out of here?
I don't think so. Just thanks for having me on, and just grateful for you and all you do for our group.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Everybody out there listening, make sure you go follow Andrea, follow me. Make sure that you screenshot anywhere that you're listening and tag us. Hit her up, hit me up. I think the biggest thing with me is like the more people you can help, the more comes back to you anyway. So let's help each other. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel. It is Billy the Kid, BILLYDHAKIDD. And then make sure you follow me on Instagram, anywhere else. And I'll see you guys on the next one, baby. Vamonos.
Close-minded people mad at me that I'm speaking facts. Or maybe could it be that I'm getting racks? Open your mind, gotta open it to receive. I'm always 10 toes for what I believe. Close-minded people mad at me that I'm speaking facts. Or maybe could it be that I'm getting racks? Open your mind, gotta open it to receive. I'm always 10 toes for what I believe.